Good evening, everybody. This is Robin with another edition of Horror Pop After Midnight. And my guest tonight he's an award-winning filmmaker, producer, writer, and director, Michael Merino. How's it going, Michael?
It's going really well. Thank you so much for having me on.
Appreciate it. Yeah, thank you for coming out of your busy time to come onto the podcast. You've been busy lately.
Kind of, yeah, a little bit. That's kind of the name of the game. It's it's kind of like coal mining. You can never really wash it off your body.
I know you love it. You travel everywhere when you do your films and all that. Is that how your craft came to be?
Well, you sort of broke up there for a second. What was the last part of that?
Okay. I said you travel everywhere when you do films. Is that how your craft became to be?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, basically I got into this business because I like to travel. That's my number one love. So I wanted to get into something that would take me as many places to meet as many different kinds of people as possible. And that's really what motivates me to keep doing this. I get to just meet people like you and everybody else that you wouldn't meet normally, maybe in a job that you work at in a city for 20 years. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's a good thing. My dad did it for 40, so I'm all about it. But for me, it's the wanderlust. I have a wanderlust, just like my grandfather.
Let's talk about a film you're getting ready to do called Chalupa. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Sure. Chalupa is essentially a modern, I don't want to give too much away yet, but it's a modern version of a sort of a Thelma and Louise, Bonnie and Clyde type thing about two young women who are in their 20s who are basically, they live on the edge of society. They commit, minor crimes to kind of survive. And they finally hit the wrong gas station. And the next thing you know, they've got the mob and the local cartel and the sheriff and the FBI after them. And it's kind of two women who've sort of been treated poorly through life, and they just want to try to get out of there and have a better life. So it's a fun movie. For me, it's one of those things where you're dealing with people who get marginalized, and we're going to try to make it a little more entertaining. That's all.
Yeah, you have my attention on that. I love films like that. When I saw that, I was like, whoa. When I have Michael on, I'm going to ask him a little bit about that. It looks good the way you were talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to do this sort of in a cinema verite style, very new wave, French new wave. The idea is not to use, I don't want it to be too polished. I want it to be a little bit earthy and rough. And we're toying with the idea of shooting it on iPhones, because since they put their crimes up on the internet, like in an Instagram kind of thing, we might as well go ahead and use the tools that would be used for that anyway, right? So we're toying with it. It might be a distribution problem, but we're looking into it.
That's pretty good, because there's a lot of young indie filmmakers out there that still use the iPhone. I mean, there's so much good stuff you can use on there, from editing, filming, everything on the new iPhones.
Yeah, it's a great tool. I mean, I wish I was born 20 years later. I'm telling you, if you're 25 right now, you're in pretty good shape. It does not give you an excuse. There's no reason why you can't shoot a movie if you really want to take the time. It doesn't make it cheap, but $10,000 is still a lot of money. $5,000 is a lot of money, and of course, talent. They don't, their rate doesn't go down just because you use a cheaper camera. You know what I mean? It's not like Tom Cruise is going to say, "Yeah, I'll do this for $100 because you're shooting it on your iPhone." It doesn't really work that way. So you're still paying for something. But there's no reason not to go out there and shoot stuff if you can do it. You should be able to get out there and do it.
I think so too. What would your advice be for a young filmmaker starting out, doing a film?
A lot of times people say pretty much the same thing. Just go out and shoot. I think, yeah, that's great advice. It's important. But if I was talking to somebody who is 22, 23 years old or 18 years old and wanted to be a filmmaker, I would tell them most definitely use your iPhone if you can't afford to rent cameras or buy cameras. But really more importantly, learn to write. You need to learn how to write scripts that work. You need to learn how to write scripts that work in the budget that you're working in. Don't write a $200 million sci-fi film when you have $35. You're not doing yourself any favors, because you'll end up spending a lot of time trying to raise a lot of money for a movie that you can't afford to make. So use the Robert Rodriguez method of use what you got, use what you have available, ask for favors, use the available equipment that you have, whether it could be a cell phone or your dad's old DSLR, whatever you can use, and make sure that you learn to write scripts. And on top of that, learn to edit, because when you go film, you don't have to film everything. Just film what you need, and that saves you a lot of time and money.
So how did you get into writing yourself before you started making films?
That actually came out of necessity. I tried to hire writers to create the scripts based on the ideas that I had. And what ended up happening the first couple of times, so a couple of these guys, writers can be a finicky bunch. So, they weren't hitting deadlines, and they weren't quite getting what I was. Maybe it was my fault, I don't know, but it wasn't really working out. So I just taught myself to write. I read a few books, watched a few YouTube videos, just said, okay, and I started writing. So I pretty much have written every script I've ever shot. So I don't think I've shot anybody else's stuff except for maybe training videos, corporate videos, that kind of thing. But for the most part, everything I've shot feature film-wise, I wrote it. And during the pandemic, from June of 2020 until December of 2021, I wrote 12 scripts. That's what I did with my time. So I spent about a little over a year writing scripts. So writing is rewriting.
That's pretty wild. I want to talk about a film I just saw. I saw it on Tubi, and I also bought it from my physical media library. Acceleration. That movie was so much fun to watch.
I'm glad you liked it. Thank you. That was a fun one to make, and very challenging. Very challenging. What do you want to know about it?
Yeah. First off, before I start asking you about it, what was very challenging about it?
Well, the schedule had to be truncated due to actors' availability and locations of being available. So what started out as a 20-day shoot turned into a 10-day shoot. We shot that in 10 days. And that's why we brought in a second director. So while I was doing most of the meat of the film, he was shooting all the action stuff, all the fight scenes. So we really had to think on our feet on that one.
I mean, you got a great cast. I mean, it's just amazing. You got Natalia, Chuck Liddell, Danny Trejo, and my favorite, Sean Patrick Flannery. That role you gave him was perfect for him. When he was doing that role, you can tell he was having so much fun playing that character.
Yeah, Sean's great. I mean, he was like, the first day we were working together, I'd never met Sean, and we did a scene, and he added, a little bit of Flanneryisms, so he peppered it out a little bit, and I looked at the DP and I said, we're going to be fine with this guy. We don't have any problems at all, because he got that character just from the go. He understood exactly what it was and who he was supposed to be. With him, I didn't even tell him to use that inflection in his voice, the accent.
Yeah.
That was all him. So, he added some dialogue that we didn't expect, but in the end, it was, I would argue that he stole that movie, frankly.
He sure did. From
me anyway.
Yeah, he did. He should have named it his character, because he stole the show. I mean, he made everybody on that screen he was with look like $1 million. Oh
yeah, he was fantastic. I mean, he's incredibly well prepared. Sean's a very, very nice guy, very easygoing, but he's incredibly prepared, and he's also very dedicated. He's a 6th degree or 5th degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. He actually owns his own studio in Houston. So he's a very motivated guy. He starts and he doesn't stop. Very, very, very much. That's what you want in an actor. Somebody who is very, very motivated and very, very into that character to the point, because they're going to know it better than you do. Even though I wrote it and I'm directing it, they know the character better than I will, because because they have to inhabit that. So I sometimes find myself going, never thought about that. This guy's really coming with some different colors there. That really looks great. So he was just on point the whole way.
So how did you get Natalia to come on? She's really good too. She does her own stunts, and she's also a martial artist.
Yeah, I call her Natalie. You know, you're calling her Natalia. That's her real name. You're right. Natalie, I met Natalie through a friend. I don't remember exactly where, but she read the script and she saw that it was, you know, obviously a very positive piece for the lead actress. And, you know, I offered it to her. I was like, I think you'd be great for this. And I also knew that her background is in, she's a dancer, and she was a ballerina, and she's very, very dedicated. She's like Sean almost. She's very dedicated to what she does. She's very, very good at the fight scenes. That's all her. I mean, we had a stunt double for her. I don't think we used a stunt double but once. She did all of that. So, it's impressive to watch.
Oh, what? She amazed me. I mean, I've seen her in other films, and I mean, she's going somewhere. I have a feeling she's going to end up being pretty big. I mean, there's a lot of people that like her in her films.
Yeah, she's got a good future in front of her. You know, she's also an excellent producer because she produced the film as well. So she had to wear two hats, and she did it on her own, and that was the first time she had ever done it. So, you know, hats off to her, no pun intended. I mean, she did a great job putting all that together. She did it very quickly. Normally these things take a lot longer. She put it all together in about 2 or 3 months. So it happened very fast.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. And then you also worked with Dolph Lundgren too. What was that like to have him on the set?
Well, you know, Dolph, he's a new actor. I think he has a future ahead of him. He's nice. Dolph's great. He's a very, very smart, very nice guy. He's a director as well, so he's been doing this for 40 years. You don't have to say much to him. He knows exactly what's going on. As a matter of fact, he'll make suggestions, and I'd say 9 times out of 10, you're like, you know what, you're right. That's a better idea, because the man's been doing this for 40 years. You're gonna listen to him, you know. So it's a collaborative art. You need everybody. Everybody has to be involved, and the director's job is to make sure we don't steer off course and make sure that everything keeps moving in the right direction. But Dolph was really pleasant. He was just a really, really good guy, really sweet. Which, you know, maybe he's not good for his reputation, but he is. He's actually a very sweet guy.
Hey, he should be. That's like Danny Trejo. I've met Danny Trejo. He's a pretty cool dude. And how'd you get him in UFC fighter Chuck Liddell in the film?
Well, that's back to Natalie. You know, as the producer, she suggested, and I said yes. And, you know, she made the calls, you know, and got them in. So that was a producer's move. And, you know, Danny, we had him for a day. He was wonderful. He's a quiet guy, but he's very polite, very nice. You know, Chuck is probably sweeter than Dolph. I would see him texting his daughter on his phone, sending her little flower emojis and things like that. But it's like, I'm sure it was his daughter, but he's also really nice. The funny thing about these guys that play, you know, they're these sort of tough guys. They're always the nicest guys. It's the guys who play mean, tough guys on screen that are always the nicest. And the guys who are the nicest on screen are always the nastiest in real life. It's kind of inverted, you know? So all these guys were really, really nice.
So
easy to work with too.
They seem like it, and watching the film, I mean, they seem like they did well together on like all the scenes, how you set it up. How'd you come up with that story, Acceleration?
That was essentially a hybrid from a film called Collateral, a Michael Mann film with Tom Cruise and Jamie Foxx. And I just sort of took that idea and added a little twist to it. You know, it's not anything ridiculously original, but it has the idea of it. The funny thing is, I'm not really a big car guy, and I've got like 3 films right now that are all car related. So I don't have any idea where that's coming from, but they all seem to be car related. And Acceleration obviously is one of them. So it just came out of watching Collateral, watching a movie called Driver, watching a movie called I don't remember the name of the Frank Grillo movie. But, you know, you start thinking about these films in a way that this is a good thing to, you know, we're a car culture, especially in California. You're very much a car culture. So it fits the LA cityscape. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I believe that. I grew up in California too. I go back every year to visit, but I live in the Midwest. But I do agree with you. There's a lot of, you know, sports cars and a lot of stuff that deal with cars. When I was growing up, I had a lot of friends who had a lot of sports cars and did, you know, little illegal drag strip racing and all that great stuff.
Yeah, I mean it's part of the LA, California, especially Southern California lifestyle. And you know, I actually wrote the film when I was living back east, but yeah, I mean it just fit LA. It really did. You know, because LA's got all these different little hamlets and little sort of different cultures that are spread throughout the city. So it kind of made sense for her character, Natalie's character, to have to deal with different sort of people from different backgrounds and different sort of socioeconomic backgrounds, as well as, you know, just different lifestyles. And so it gave it a little more flavor, you know?
Yeah, I loved the role where she played the getaway driver, and then she had this certain amount of time to collect, you know, all this debt and take, you know, kill and take care of some business so she can be with her son. I love the whole premise of that.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I told her, look, just remember, you're actually deaf, you know? And she's like, I am? I go, yeah, you're deaf. She says, but I have a son. I said, yes, but you're deaf right now until you get your son. Then you have redemption. Right now, you're deaf. Your job is to go around and kill. You have one focus. That's it.
Yeah. Besides filmmaking, what does Michael Merino enjoy doing? What do you enjoy doing besides writing scripts and, you know, making some great films?
Well, thank you for the compliment. I travel. If I'm not working, I'm on a plane, a train, a bus, a car, a horse, a bike, whatever it takes to go somewhere, even if it's just going to the store for the day, because I like to keep moving. I'm real big on travel. I spent a lot of my 20s traveling around the world.
Yeah, there's a story I want to talk to you about, too, since you've been around the world. What was it like running with bulls in Spain?
It was fun. That was a great time. You know, we got there, I was with my good friend, another guy named Michael, and we got in there, I don't know, 11 o'clock at night in San Sebastian, which is where this happens. And, you know, they have a party. It goes on for about a week, the festival. And they run with the bulls every morning, or they release the bulls every morning. And we got in there probably 11 o'clock at night, and it's just like sort of like Mardi Gras, you know. It was an all-night party, and then around 7 or 8 in the morning, they blow a couple of horns, and people start lining up, and, you know, then they fire some fireworks off, and then they release the bulls in waves. And, you know, there's some certain rules you have to follow, and if you don't follow them, you either get gored or you get yanked from the you know. Well, I would say you get yanked from the path because it's sort of a free for all. But I was we did it. We did the last 100 yards or so, which means you go into the tunnel. It's an old Roman Colosseum, so it's really, really narrow. And once you come out, you know, you come out into the Colosseum and everybody's cheering. And the next night we were in another bar and we saw ourselves on TV from the night before. It was pretty funny. So it was fun. It was fun. The bulls were the least dangerous. It's the people you got to worry about. So
did you see anybody get like hit and bucked?
Oh, yeah. I saw a couple people get hurt pretty badly, actually.
So, did you see anybody flying in the air?
I saw a few people diving. I saw a guy get trampled. He had tripped, and he was on his knees trying to get up, and the bulls just plowed over him, and me and another guy pulled him out of the way. He was all bloodied, but you know he'll survive, but he'll remember that for the rest of his life. But yeah, you saw a few things like that. I didn't see anybody get seriously hurt. No.
Well, that's good to hear. I mean, that sounds wild what you did. I don't think I would have the balls to do that.
You'd be surprised what a lot of wine can do for you. So, yeah, no, it was something I did for my birthday. I mean, that was the whole point. And so, I'd do it again tomorrow. It was just a great time. It was a lot of fun.
So if you went to Mexico, would you try bullfighting? Would you fight a bull?
Probably not. I'm not a big fan of bullfighting, so it's not really my thing. I'll run with the bulls because it's a little more of an even fight because I'm running and they're trying to chase me, even though they probably got the speed and the horns. But I've got the brain, so I know I can take a right when they don't know that. But bullfighting is not really my thing. So I'd say the short answer is no.
Hey, it doesn't hurt to ask. You also did a horror film too. We'll get into. Are you a big fan of horror? And then what got you into horror?
I do like horror. I would be lying if I said I was a huge fan. I'm not. I mean, I've been to the conventions, and there are people who put me to shame. So I like horror, but I tend to like sort of psychological horror. I don't really like slasher films, blood and guts type stuff. I like more along, I like the psychological stuff, the religious stuff, Exorcist, that kind of stuff. I did write a script called Light, and then I sold it to some producers in Vegas. They turned it into a movie called Death Count, which was kind of a soft version of Saw, and that came out last year, I think, a year and a half ago, something like that. So that's out there in the world. I wrote that script. I didn't direct it. I just sold the script. So, but horror, I do enjoy it, but, like I said, it has to be psychological, maybe more religious thriller kind of thing, more in the head.
So what was that first film that got you really into it?
What, horror?
Yeah.
Probably when I was 7 or 8 years old, my older brother showed me The Exorcist, and it freaked me out. So that probably got me into it.
Now
we were watching on tape at home or something. I think it was that, or it was on TV. I don't remember what it was, but yeah, he said you should watch this movie. It's a comedy.
He told you it was a comedy.
Yeah, so I watched the whole thing with him. It was it's a classic story. It's like a Friday or Saturday night, just two of us at home. My mom and dad were out, and he's like, "We should watch this film." And yeah, by the time my parents come home, I was kind of okay. I didn't know what I watched, but it freaked me out. So that's the one that sticks with me. But the one that really, 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 really sticks with me is The Shining, hands down. I mean, to me, that's the perfect horror film.
Yeah, that is definitely a perfect horror film. I mean, Jack Nicholson's just freaky anyway.
Yeah, I mean, he's great in that. Shelley Duvall's great. I mean, they're all great. Scott Brothers, they're all great. The kid's great. They're all great. It's just, the idea of being isolated, and you wonder what the relationships are between the characters and the wife and the husband and the kid, or, it's like some deeper stuff's going on there. There's a lot of implied stuff that, a lot of people probably don't want to talk about. And there's some crazy stuff in there, just these, a guy in a bear suit, things. It's interesting, I like those kinds of things because it kind of, the thing about horror that I like when it's that style is it makes you think about it. When everything's up on screen, you can watch somebody chop somebody up so many times before you're like, okay, I get it. It's not for me. It's for other people. It's fine, There's different strokes for different folks kind of thing,
I totally agree with you. I like a good film that really gets you into it, like the psychological part of it, or how they play like the music score into it. Stuff that, keeps you guessing where you can just really freak yourself out.
Yeah, I think what, as a rule, generally, the more, even though it's a movie, but the more realistic it could be, in life, is the more terrifying it is to me. Like, you could actually see somebody getting a job and caretaking a hotel in the mountains for a season, with their family. That could actually happen. Guys with masks and, butchering tools chasing you down the street, that's not likely to happen. I'm not saying never has, but it's not likely to. In my day-to-day life, I don't know where you live, but it doesn't really happen around here. So, people freaking out all the time, that happens all the time.
I think so too. And you also did a vampire film called Drakul.
Drakul, yeah.
Drakul,
yeah.
Yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
Drakul was what we like to call a proof of concept, and so we shot about 4 or 5 webisodes, and then we edited it together to make it into a short feature. It's like 107 minutes or something like that. We didn't completely finish it. It needs to be polished, but the idea was to shop it around as a TV series. So I shopped it around for about a year. Got a little bit of interest, but, ultimately, not enough for it to obviously move forward. So I just cut it together. I actually just recut it about 6 months ago, and I'm adding some effects. I may go back to it at some point to make it a longer feature. But what it is, it's True Blood meets House of Cards. So it's vampires in politics. And the vampires are essentially running the government. And you have a rebel force of vampires who don't want them to run the government because they want to remain underground. They want to keep vampires, let's not put everybody out there, And the population doesn't realize these people are vampires. So they don't realize their politicians are actually vampires.
That sounds pretty fun. At least they're not sparkly vampires.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, okay, politicians suck the blood out of you anyway, so let's make them into vampires. That's pretty much what it is.
I like the premise of that. I'm definitely going to have to check that out. I mean, I love vampire films. It has to be something different and original, nothing like recycled or anything like that.
Yeah, it's still, it's still proof of concept. We're working on it. It just got sidetracked because of other things that I started working on. So, I think we shot that probably 6-7 years ago now. So it's been sort of hibernating for quite some time. But I hope to get back to it, it's just a matter of when and how much and how we can.
That'd be great. I'm going to definitely check it out. Eventually, will it ever come out on a disc?
I don't know. There's some talk. I've toyed with the idea of going out and shooting more footage, getting like a name actor, like a Tom Sizemore or, Michael Madsen, Eric Roberts, because there's a character in there that you hear him, but you never see him.
Okay.
And just adding that element to it so we can see the guy who's sort of like runs everything, sort of the puppet master, if you will, and then maybe giving him some story in there so we can stretch it out a little bit and then make it into a feature. Just a matter of whether we want to raise the money to take the time to go film it. And, ultimately the goal was to make it a TV series. That's what we really wanted to do originally when we put it together. So who knows, anything's possible.
Yeah,
My brother keeps telling me that, he's like, that's the thing you should keep pushing. He's a huge fan of it. He just loves the idea. He's never even seen it, but he loves the idea.
Oh, he's probably pushing you all the time. It's like doing it. He's probably trying to get you to put him in the film, too.
Yeah, he does it all the time, and that's not going to happen. I haven't forgotten the Exorcist trick he pulled on me.
Saying it was a comedy?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I haven't forgotten that. I remind him of it all the time. So, we'll see.
Yeah, and Linda Blair was the stand-up comic in the movie, too.
Exactly. Yeah. He's just, I don't know. He's just, he's what all big brothers are, That's the way they treat you when you're the youngest of the four, so... Well, second from youngest.
Oh, come on. You can make him an evil politician in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he'll be assassinated, first 5 minutes. Just that'll be that.
That'd be pretty wild. Shoot, you should get Natalie in that, man.
Yeah, she probably would do really well in it. She's got the Ukrainian background, so she's got that accent. She's got the dark hair, So, yeah, maybe. You never know. I mean, these things, they're funny because sometimes you put them aside for a little while because you end up working on stuff that draws your attention, and you sort of forget about the other one, sort of comes back later, and you're like, wow, why didn't I focus on that? And, partly it's because it's all about timing, and sometimes you have to let something sit for a while and give you time to kind of figure out where you want to go with it. And people, you hear people say that all the time, and it's true. Sometimes you have to put a project down, a script down, and walk away from it and come back, 36, even years later, and you realize, okay, this is what I was doing wrong, and now I know how to fix that. So, Drakul is something it's pretty close to my heart. I really do want to do something with it. I just got to figure out exactly what it is.
Well, good. I hope you figured out and all that because I think that would be a hit. I mean, there's a lot of people that still like vampire films.
Well, I appreciate that. I think so too. Actually, I think it's the thing about it is too is it's PG-13, so it's not like it's over the top.
Hey,
so it's anybody can watch it pretty much.
Yes. I was doing some research on you, and I saw some of your interviews, and someone interviewed you and said they watched some of your films, and you always have like a dog in it. What's up with that?
Well, I have a soft spot for dogs, and anytime in every film I've ever had, either that you see a dog or you hear a dog somewhere in the film. It's my Easter egg almost to myself, because sometimes I forget where I put them. And it's just a thing that I've always done because I have a love for dogs. That's it. I just love dogs. What can I tell you?
Okay. I was just curious. I was like, I'm going to ask him that. I'm going to get really into it. So.
Yeah, it's just, dogs are just, I just adore them,
Hey, will we ever see a sequel to Acceleration? I can see that going to another movie.
I don't know. That's a pretty good question. That would really be up to the producers, because once you make it, you sell the script, they own it. I don't own it. So would I write a sequel to it? Maybe, if the opportunity was right. I think what it would be is the kid's grown up now and they kidnapped his mom. So...
I'll be kind of like Taken.
Yeah. Well, Natalie's grown up now. I mean, Natalie's older now, and her son's grown up, and she gets kidnapped. And he has to find her now, so we just flip it.
That would be pretty wild. So where can
we'll wait another like 40 years and make sure she'll be an old lady's old rest home, and she's been kidnapped by Dolph, who's like 95 now or something. And he still holds a grudge.
Yeah, and he's walking with a walker.
Yeah, we can just do it that. We'll call it deceleration. Everything slows down.
That'd be great. So where can everybody find you on social media and see what your next films are going to be?
I am very easy to find. I don't do social media very much. I've got Facebook. That's about it. I had Instagram. I had Twitter. I had I got rid of all of it. It's just too much to deal with. So Facebook, that's it. Simple. And I barely use that anymore. I think you and I talk on there occasionally, but I don't really, spend a lot of time there. But if you want to find me there, you can find me there. Or just go to my website, mcmfilmproductions.com. Obviously, IMDb. You can type my name into Google. I usually pop up pretty quickly. But if you want to see some more stuff that we've done, go to the website. That's a good place to start. That's
awesome. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, no, I appreciate it. Thank you for the invite. Hopefully people enjoyed it. I enjoyed talking with you, and hopefully you can do it again.
Oh, definitely. I would love to have you on. I would love to pick your brain, especially on horror.
Yeah, well, there's not much left up there, man. So you better get on that real quick.
I definitely will. Yeah. Or get
all the pickings have been picked.
Yeah. Or find out where your brother's at, and have him give me some stories.
It's like the leftover toilet paper rolls in August of 2020. You better get in there quick, man.
That's right. Everybody have a great